Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today I am interviewing Jordan Brock from Hit the Sticks. He's going to talk to me about his game Just Tactics, which is a turn based strategy. Hello, and welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. So, just to start off, tell us a little bit about Hit the Sticks and your dev team and the people.
Okay, well, first, hit the sticks. The name came from like analog control sticks, sort of like playing basketball, saying shoot some hoops. So I don't know. That's where we came up with the name.
Ah.
But this is the first game we made. Is Just Tactics. So definitely a new team. I do the business end of things and also like just steer the ship in the right direction in terms of like development and stuff. So I'm the management. um, and then we have Aubrey, who's our chief engineer, and we have a junior engineer named Christian, who's learning a lot really fast. He's quite good though, so we have high hopes for him. He's on like a good trajectory of learning things real fast.
Oh, good.
And we have two 3D artists, Oleg, who has been with us since the beginning of the project, along with Aubrey and myself. When we started, it was just Aubrey, Oleg, and myself. And on Just Tactics, Oleg did all of the characters, all the animations for them, and they're really quite nice.
Mm.
Um, and then Rob, we added like probably 6 months into the project because we were like, oh well, Oleg's doing well on the characters, but we don't have a map or anything else, any art, any other art. And Oleg can't do everything, so we found Rob Nally, who's another 3D artist, and he did like the map for the game and lots of other art stuff that we needed. Um, and then we have a QA tester, Justin, who is really good at finding bugs. He for like 4 years he worked for this big company that tests cell phones where, like if you're making an app for a cell phone, there's so many different cell phones that you have to really be crazy meticulous testing. So he's real good at that. And then recently, not that long ago, we added Dave, who is a sound guy. He's a composer, a musician, and he did all the sound effects and all the music for the game. Um, and we did have a guy, Claude, who was our sysadmin, but we actually just let him go, unfortunately. There was just like nothing left for him to do really. Um, and the next game we started thinking about our next game, and it's going to be a single player game, so there's not going to be like any networking or anything for him to do. So there really just wasn't anything for him to do, unfortunately. So we're actually looking to hire some more artists right now to help us be able to keep working on Just Tactics while we're also, doing concept art and getting to work on the next game.
Nice. So
Yeah.
you've got quite a diverse team working with you. Do you have a
Uh,
central office?
yeah, well, if you look at our at the HTS Soft website, it's actually not diverse. We're all between the ages of 26 and 32, and we're all white males. So if we're not diverse at all, really. We're talented, but not diverse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, actually, we're all in a central office here. We're outside of Philadelphia, and it's actually really nice to all be here together. In the past, I'd worked on a bunch of software projects where there was a lot of people all over the place. I worked with people in England and Singapore, and like, it's hard with all the time changes and not being
Hmm.
able to talk to someone face to face. But yeah, having everyone here is great. Just can talk to everyone and not have to worry about time zones or not really understand. It's a lot better for just for communication.
Okay, so if we go straight to the heart of the game, Just Tactics, the name says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Uh, Nothing is left to chance in your game. What led you to that decision?
Well, I grew up playing lots of tabletop games with dice rolling. And even like simple game like Risk or something like that always made me mad, where the game was more about just rolling well and not about skill. It came always down to like some lucky rolls. And then I played games like more complicated games like Axis and Allies and Warhammer, where it was the same thing, where it's like, don't roll snake eyes or the game's over.
Yeah.
Um, so this is closer to chess, like closer to determinism, where you know the outcome. Uh, so let's the most skilled player win. But then there's still a deck system of cards, so you still don't know what kind of cards a person has in their deck because you can customize it. So there is like some uncertainty. It's not like just not just purely like chess, you know.
Hmm.
Um, there is still an element of I don't say chance, I say uncertainty. Because you could actually, you know, if you have to make a deck, you know, like Magic cards, it's sort of like Magic, where
Yeah.
there's like buffs and debuffs. I mean, in this game, you could make your entire deck out of the same card, so you'd know what card you're drawing each time. So then there wouldn't be any like chance involved. But that'd be pretty predictable for your
Yeah.
opponent.
But
Uh,
still, you build your deck with a certain tactic in mind, so something you understand and can, put into play as it comes to you.
yeah, I mean that's one of the cooler parts of the game. I think is that you customize your army. And then, so, you know, whatever units you put in your squads, you want to have a deck that complements them nicely. Um, so, you know, if you have tanks, maybe you want to buff them even further up with defense cards so they're really like invulnerable. Um, or if you have cloaked units, you might want to take like airstrikes so you can be like covertly calling in airstrikes, and your opponent like really never knows what's shooting at them. They never like see anybody, which is pretty funny. And if you have infantry, you might want to take like action point cards or something, so that when you get into close combat, you can like kill one guy and then you play plus action point instant on yourself, which lets you then keep going and you can kill another guy or something like that. It's
Yeah.
cool.
Many of the basic parts of it are very similar to most turn-based games that people will have played and understand. But on the other hand, it's not a simple game. There are a lot of in-depth things that you have to decide as you take your turn, and then plan ahead from there. What kind of tactics do you try and encourage in the game?
Try and encourage. Well, there's a couple things you have to watch out for. One is there's a reflex phase, a potential for a reflex phase, which is basically like some other games might call it Overwatch. So if you don't move one of your units on your turn and you leave them with action points, or you could move them and just leave them with a few fewer action points. But anyway, as long as your unit has action points and has an attack, then on the opponent's turn, if they wander, across your line of fire, and they have fewer action points than you, then you sort of temporarily steal the turn from them. So it's like an ambush. You set an ambush, and then you can shoot at them and play cards on them. So in terms of like what tactics we're encouraging there, it's you gotta scout. You can't just like run. If you're running your units blindly in, they might get shot by a unit sitting on Overwatch. So yeah, you have to be careful. So scouting is definitely important, just to see where the enemy is weak and know where you can move in. Because if you move in blindly, you're going to get shot, and if you move in, or even if you don't get shot, you might end up in a position where you're going to get attacked on your next turn. You're going to get counterattacked. And the other really cool thing that's different than any other game is the teleporter units, which let you move around really fast. So that's another thing. Is like if you don't have your guys in the right place, you might not realize how far the enemy can like sweep in to attack you. So you might feel comfortable, like, oh, my guys are safe. They're around this building, but the other guy can easily like move some teleporters into position and then like teleport directly into close combat and kill all your guys. Um, so yeah, that's the main mechanic you have to like learn. That's not like any other game. Is just like how fast you can be with the teleporters. Um, and the teleporters are pretty cool. It's like one of them on its own doesn't do anything, but if you have two teleporters within range of each other, then they sort of like form a wormhole that a third unit can teleport between, from A to B or from B to A, and then you can chain them together to make this big like spider web of teleporters to get around the map quite fast. So yeah, between the fact that you have to that you can get around real fast and that you might get ambushed. Like you really have to scout and be careful to make sure you're putting your guys in the right place, that they're not vulnerable. Um, Besides that, like the tactics are, it's pretty normal. You gotta scout. I mean, just scout, see where the other guy's weak, and attack where he's weak, pretty much. Okay, so to win the game, it's whoever has the most points at the end of the game, and you get points for killing units or for controlling these towers that are scattered around the map. We call control towers. They're green in color, and like they give you points on some formula. It's like 5n squared plus 5n, which is like, so if you're holding 1, you get 10 points per turn. If you're holding 2, you get 30 points per turn. If you're holding 3, you get 60 points per turn. If you're holding 4, you get 100 points per turn. 5, 150 points. 6, 210. 7 is 280. So there's 7 of these towers on each side of the map. So if you and your opponent are both holding 280, at 7, you both get 280. But if you're able to take over one of his, then he's down to 210 and you're up to 360 points per turn, which is like a huge swing. So holding the towers are really important. But then if you're concentrating on holding the towers, maybe the person set up like barricades and these things to like maintain control of the towers. Then, if he's like surrounded with walls and stuff. So if you're spending all your time shooting those barricades down, then you're not shooting at his infantry. So then there's a balance of like, when do I try to shoot these towers that are really valuable versus when do I try to shoot his infantry? And then another choice is to shoot the teleporters because they're very valuable too. I mean, if you can knock out the teleporters, then the person might have a big army, but it's really slow and you can like, hit and run them and just sort of kite them around the map. So that's a third option of something that you can do. And then the fourth thing is there's another kind of tower on the map that's like a satellite uplink. And for each satellite uplink you control, you draw a card into your hand at the beginning of your turn. So, each side has like 4 of these satellite uplinks, and then there's one disputed one in the middle. So you're going to be drawing about 4 to 5 cards from your deck into your hand per turn. But if you can take over the opponent's satellite uplink and then all of a sudden you're drawing 5 and he's drawing 3, then when it comes to playing cards back and forth, you're gonna not even just trump them but just have more cards to play.
Yeah.
If I play, if we're just playing basic cards, like I play plus attack, you play plus defense, I play plus attack, you play plus defense, and then I play plus attack, and then you're out of cards, then I'm gonna win. So there's, do I go for the satellite uplinks to get the cards because that helps me fight, or do I go for the control towers because that gives me points, or do I kill your infantry because that prevents you from shooting me, or do I kill your teleporters because that slows you down? It's like, it can be hard to decide. Like there's some games that I lose where I'm just like, I can't do everything. I don't know which is the ideal thing. It's hard to know what you're supposed to be doing sometimes, just tactically. Like if you're trying to win right then for the long term, or I don't know, it's tough. It's definitely a deep game.
I've seen your because you have lots of tutorial videos and example videos on your YouTube channel. I've watched one of the example games, and it takes a while, but these I think it was possibly you and one of the other devs going at each other, and
Yeah, probably.
you knew exactly what was going on.
Yeah, Justin and I play each other a lot. He's a QA guy, so he's played the game a lot. He knows the rules better than anyone because that's his job. Even like probably better than the engineer that programmed it. So yeah, he's really good. But yeah. There's games I play against him where, I mean, we'll go back and forth. Where like one of us will be doing really well for a week, and then the other one of us will do really well for a week after we like adjust our strategy to counter what they're doing. But yeah, we always have some heated games, some epic matches.
Okay, moving on to the aesthetic now. I would describe it as kind of a sci-fi abstract military style things. When I'm reading some sci-fi or space opera novels, your unit designs are kind of how I imagine like the robots and the spaceships to look, because
Yeah.
they're animated in a very kind of robotic and fluid way. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, it looks amazing.
Yeah, Oleg the animation character design did a really good job. We've actually someone complained that they were like too unique, that like we should have just made them, look like normal tanks or normal people or something so you would recognize them more, which I guess I mean you could make that argument that it would be easier to learn if the things were more recognizable. Um, but I don't know, I think having them all be unique is pretty cool. And different. So, we were creative, I guess. Can't be mad at us for being creative. Um,
No, certainly.
and yeah, I really like the way originally the drawings were sort of like a 1930s um, robot style. Like, have you ever seen like old robots from like the 1930s and older sci-fi where like their vision of the future is they didn't really envision anything very futuristic. It's sort of like contemporary vision of the future. Even like if you look at some like cityscape or something, it'll be like, the Empire State Building, but just taller and longer or something. It's
Mm.
I don't know, it's kind of interesting. So yeah, the original concept for the robot or like a 1930s version of the future, but then when we texture them like a more modern paint scheme.
So, other turn-based strategy games where I know that the reflex kind of stage of your game is very similar to something people would recognize from XCOM, like Overwatch. What other turn-based strategies did you draw from?
Uh, yeah, I mean, XCOM, definitely near Aubrey, that was like one of his favorite games. So we definitely
Mm.
drew from that. And the difference between our game and XCOM is like XCOM's about like the campaign and the single player, and our game's just about the multiplayer. And yeah, Aubrey also grew up playing like BattleTech, and I grew up playing Warhammer. So those are really the games. In terms of computer games, there weren't that many, I don't think. I mean, there are a lot of similar things. I mean, I guess it's quite similar to a lot of other games. The real unique thing is the teleporters, and then the blending of the units in the deck system. But I don't know. I guess Warhammer. I mean, for me, it really was having grown up playing Warhammer, spending a lot of money on buying all those tabletop miniature guys.
They were really expensive, weren't
Yeah, it
they?
was. It's like insane. And for some people, that's what they like doing. It's like a hobby, and they collect the miniature, and then they paint it. But I was never a good painter either. Like I was terrible at painting. I mean, I'm not bad at painting, but painting like trying to paint like a little eye on like a tiny little guy was just like impossible for me. Um, so I thought that this game, taking it, if you could play Warhammer on the computer and not have to spend all that money on the miniatures and not have to paint them and be able to find a game with people, all over the world, and it sounded pretty good to me. There's lots of games out there, but I don't know. There don't seem to be that many turn-based uh, strategy games. Like, not enough compared to some.
Yeah, it's kind of taken a dip recently, hasn't it, in the amount that are being released.
Yeah, I mean, there was XCOM and Frozen Synapse like a year ago. But other than that, there's not that many like good ones, I don't think. Not since like Final Fantasy Tactics maybe or something like that. I don't know. I mean, there's like Heroes of Might and Magic came out recently.
Have you played Fire Emblem for the 3DS? That's really good.
I have not played it for the 3DS. I've watched lots of videos and I've seen people play it. Yeah, I know that game is awesome. Yeah. I'm bad at playing games. Like I need to play more games. I'm bad. Like I play a few games for like thousands of hours. I'm like someone that likes to master the game and play competitively. That's why I like multiplayer so much.
Yeah.
So someone in like what I'm doing in terms of making games, I should be playing lots more games, just to see what everyone else is doing, but I just don't. But I'm going to start that. But yeah, the past like however many years, like I'll play like StarCraft for thousands of hours and play Counter Strike for thousands of hours, and I'm sure I'll end up playing Just Tactics for thousands of hours. If I
You're
haven't
one game
if I
ahead.
haven't already, yeah. But yeah, I definitely need to play more games instead of play more games for a few hours and play you know thousands of hours of just a handful of games. And I played like thousands of hours of Halo too. Um, yeah. So yeah, that's I mean the game. It really came from Warhammer, I guess. I really liked that game. It was just too expensive at the end, and I had friends that like just couldn't afford to play it, so seemed kind of bad.
Yeah.
And since then, Warhammer has done more. I heard that they're going to make a turn-based game, but I mean, their last game, the Space Marine game, was like a practically like it was Gears of War basically. So it was far from the turn-based, tabletop game.
I think they were monopolizing on the universe rather than the actual game that they
Yeah, I
had.
mean, yeah, sure, and immerses you in that universe and tell the story, and I mean that's cool. But some people actually like the turn-based game,
Yeah.
um, which if they made a really good turn-based game, some people might stop buying the miniatures, so that would hurt their business. So maybe that's why they didn't do it. Um, but I heard they are making one, a fantasy one, I think, and maybe also
Yeah,
probably 40,
I've heard
probably
that as well.
40K too.
Yeah, so thank you for talking to me. It's been great fun. Just Tactics is available from your website. Where's that?
JustTactics.com, and we also put it up on
Simple.
JustTactics.com, and we put it up on Steam Greenlight too right now, and it seems to be doing well. We did put it up like a week ago and has a lot of upvotes so far and a bunch of comments. So we really want to get on Steam, and that'll help get the word out a lot.
Great, I didn't realize that. So yeah, go check it out on Greenlight as well. Thank you, Jordan, for talking to me, taking your valuable time up.
Thanks for interviewing me. It was great.
You're welcome. Goodbye, everyone.